Hey, this is Andrew Brown from Exam Pro, and I've just gone live to share with you my free SysOps Administrator outline. If you're wondering what this is basically the rough outline for my actual SysOps course that I'm working on. This is my first time ever live streaming on YouTube, at least not with Restream, without Restream. And so you're just gonna have to give me a second here because I want to pop this over to Twitter so people are aware of my live stream. If I can figure out where the heck is the link there. So let's go up here to my studio. You can't see what I'm doing, but once I share this up, I'll start walking through this SysOps Administrator outline, explain as to why I outlined it as such and some of the considerations I've made doing this. So I just need to find this live stream. Oh, hey, there I am. And if I go here, there we go, great. So now I have that link. I'm just gonna go over to my Twitter. I'm just gonna share it there. So if anybody wants to pop in and have a conversation, we can. I'll go ahead and post that there. Cool. I'm not sure if anyone's going to pop in over from there, but I think we can still work our way through here. I'm going to make my way back to the live stream. Hey, Daniel, how you doing? Great. And it's nice because it's the first time I actually have a live stream where I can respond to people in real time. I've used Restream in the past and I wasn't able to see stuff. So what you see here that is laid out is the entire SysOps Administrator outline that I think that I'm going to do for recording. And so the reason I'm sharing this early is that if you are planning on studying for the SysOps Administrator and you can't wait for me to release that content, at least you have an idea of what you should be studying. So if you see in here in orange or yellow, which says share, this is content that I've already produced. It's already available here on the YouTube page here for your study. And new is the new content that I'm actually going to end up shooting. And by the way, if anybody's having any difficulties viewing me, if this is going low res, please tell me in the comments because I have no idea. I've never done, I've only done one other YouTube live stream, so I gotta get better at this. So what is different in the SysOps Administrator compared to the developer and compared to the solution architect certifications? Well, I would say that there's a lot more focus on cloud networking and automation through and through. So where we're going to see that is I'm going to be adding a few extra sections here to Elastic Beanstalk that have to do with the administration of Elastic Beanstalk. I want everyone to do the entire Beanstalk follow along and course from the Developer Associate certification. This is a little bit more than what's needed for the SysOps, but I think that overall, any associate level, you should really know all the deployment models inside and out. The SysOps is strange because I think before there used to be a lot more focus on deployment methodologies, and now it's been more shifted into the Developer Associate. And so I just tend to include it just in case because sometimes old questions crop up that have to do with deployment. So that's why you see heavily Elastic Beanstalk stuff in there. I don't actually have in the outline, but I really want to include a very, very thorough walkthrough of code pipeline. So actually how to build, I'll just put that on the end of my list here. So we'll just say code pipeline. This will probably be a big project, which is like setting up an actual pipeline for an application that you'd have to deploy. I think that would be a very high value one here, but that's a bit harder for me to outline because I'll have to go back and review that. The other thing is CloudWatch. So I didn't really cover CloudWatch very well in my Solutions Architect course. I didn't have many follow-alongs here. So probably what I'll end up doing is I'll probably end up putting follow-alongs for every single CloudWatch service. And then these are these new services here. So we have Container Insights, Synthetics, Contributor Insights, Service Lens. Those things probably do not show up in the exam, but I like to put them in proactively so that I don't have to update my content 3 to 6 months later when they actually do appear. Oh, thanks. And I'm just kind of getting used to seeing the comments. There's some way to put the comments here on the right-hand side. I haven't yet figured that out. I wonder if I can pop it out here. Oh yeah, look at that. Check that out. I can pop it out here. So I'll just put it up there. And I think I might actually be a bit dyslexic, because if you see me ever writing stuff, I'm always putting words backwards and misspelling things like crazy. Oh, thanks, Alex. Dyslexic. Oh, it's so hard to spell that. I think that's like kind of torture if you are dyslexic and they ask you to spell the word dyslexic. It's totally unfair. So back to this outline here. Systems Manager isn't something that is heavily in the SysOps Administrator exam. I don't know why, because to me that is critical. That's critical to being a SysOps Administrator. But in case they do add it to future exams, when they release that CO2, because they did that for the Solution Architect, it's going to happen for the developer and SysOps. I bet Systems Manager is going to start appearing. So I'm getting ahead of the game and making sure I put Systems Manager forefront and center into that actual section there. For EC2, it's going to be all the standard stuff there. I probably will reorganize it. A lot of people didn't realize I had a lot of follow-alongs because I kind of hid them in my actual content. So if we actually go to Exam Pro here, and this is one of the complaints people had. They're saying, you don't have enough follow-along content, but I actually have lots of it. It's just that I try to group it together. So if we go down to like EC2 follow-along, this is a follow-along, and it kind of covers the last few sections here. So probably what I'll end up doing is, instead of having one big section, I'll intersplice it into these sections here so that it's more like lecture, follow-along, lecture, follow-along, lecture, follow-along, because I think that might have a better outcome for people that are studying. So that is going to be a change there. For S3, this isn't so important for the SysOps, but it's more important for the Solution Architect, and that's they've added a lot of additional features. Inventory is not new, but I never seem to ever cover that, but the Access Analyzer, batch operations, object lock, I never cover requester pay. I feel like I need to add that in there, and access points, I think that's just a reworking of VPC endpoints, but it could be something else. And so I'm going to shoot this and put it in the SysOps, but it's really intended for the Solution Architect. A lot of this content is coming from the Solution Architect. I probably will end up reshooting it because I'm not happy with the quality in terms of the frame rate and animation and delivery of that content. So even though it says shared a lot of the stuff is going to be reshot anyway. OpsWorks is something that is a bit of a funny service, because it doesn't get, like, it's very important to the SysOps, very important to the developer, but a lot of people just do not cover it because they either don't know it or they don't like it. For me, I really like OpsWorks because I come from a Ruby background and it uses Chef, which is a configuration management tool. But OpsWorks is, I think, is probably one of the parts where people lose a lot of points on the SysOp, because other courses don't cover it. People say the SysOps is the hardest exam. It's not. The developer is. But I think it's just like poor coverage of OpsWorks, and I will thoroughly cover it and have a follow along in there, because for me it's easy to put together and share that information for you. Another thing that I'm thinking is, like, for VPC, and I feel like it's still weak, and I got to figure out a better way to do it. But like for the VPC section, is like I need more like scenarios around security groups and NACLs and things like that. Because in the exam, if we go pull up the actual type in SysOps Administrator exam guide, we go over here to the actual exam guide here, and you look at the practice exam questions, right? We'll go pull that up there. What you're going to see is a lot of scenarios that involve this, right? And I think this is another hang up for a lot of people, is that, you know, this when you see like all this kind of stuff, it does not translate as well as written text. And so I think that's another hang up for the SysOps, is all this networking stuff like 0.0.0/0 and knowing the port numbers and stuff like that, or showing more stuff with CIDR blocks and subnets. Hey, thanks, Zach. And so to me, that is going to be another trip up for a lot of people that are trying to take that actual exam, or for the SysOps, and that's why they say it is a lot harder than the developer. But again, I don't believe it is. I think if I can get you through those humps, you're going to find out that this is really easy. We just have to go through it. Another thing I really want to do is cover more basic networking. So I do go through this stuff, but I don't talk about like CIDR ranges and like how to calculate IP addresses based on the CIDR range that you chose. And so I think that's something I'm going to work into this exam. I don't have it outlined yet. Databases you don't really need to know. So like you need to know DynamoDB, you need to know RDS. I don't know why RDS is not in there. You definitely do not need to know Snowball. Like you need to know Snowball in the sense that you need to know what this service offering is. You don't need to know it from a pragmatic standpoint because it's just not something that you're going to ever get hands-on, and they're never going to really ask you an integration scenario with it. I've seen Athena show up. So Athena is weird because it should really show up more in the analytics certification, or maybe even the DevOps, but it has appeared on this exam. So I've included as well. Same thing with Service Catalog. Same thing with AWS Config. And anything that has to do with configuration and management, anything like that, that's what's going to cover the SysOps. I really wanted to add more to the Elastic Load Balancer. There just wasn't a lot to do there, so I crammed in authentication users and troubleshooting. I think one advantage I'm going to have over any other provider out there is that I'm going to put more troubleshooting sections in, because that's what a lot of the scenarios are about. It's like, okay, great, I know what Elastic Load Balancer is, but what happens when I run into these problems with it? And that is a lot of the questions on the exam. Aurora 53 is extremely unexciting. I have follow-along somewhere. I don't know why they're not in here. But I mean, honestly, you really don't need to do the follow-alongs for this. You just need to know all the different scenarios here. I don't feel like practical knowledge there is really going to help you much. CloudTrail, we have the practical stuff there. It's just, if you've covered it before, you don't need to cover it again, but it's there. IAM, there's not a huge story here. If you already have good IAM experience, you do not need to cover too much for the SysOps. But that's the general outline. Do you have the same layout notes for the associate developer? I mean, I have a full course. The whole layout for it is like, if you just go over to back to here to developer, it's just right here, right? So this is the layout, but there's not me talking through it and explaining like why these components matter. So I've never done those in my videos. I actually have exam guide readiness webinars, which I'm supposed to be doing, and that is what this is supposed to be. So like we have the outline here, but the actual thing is me walking through the actual paper. So what I would do for those webinars is I would open up the exam guide here, and I have another presentation, and I literally go through and I step through all of these, every single one of these, and then I tie them back to specific services, and then I tie them back to the actual outline here, which I'm not doing. It's just that I published this today, and I figured I would just talk through it because I'd published it. I don't know if I'll do it, but I kind of want to make like a public roadmap. So if you've ever been on like, if you've ever been to, I'm just trying to think of like one that has it, like GitHub CloudFormation roadmap. I think they have it. See how they have like this? Maybe it's not that. I think it's, oh, well, we'll look at the containers ones. But AWS does this, where what they'll do is any upcoming features, if this ever feels like loading here, there we go. So they'll have a project over here, and they'll have a container roadmap, and then they'll make it all as tasks, and they'll show you what they're working on. So this is actually AWS talking about what they're going to add to Kubernetes, what they're going to add to ECS and stuff like that. And so I thought it'd be fun if I took this here and turned it into this roadmap, and as I work on the materials, I can release them out and get more feedback from the audience, and also give an opportunity for people to see content early on. This is the biggest problem. People say, I want early access, I want to help you out, I want to review this content so I can learn up. I don't mind if it's not 100% done. I just don't have a mechanism for delivery to do that. So like right now I just work in PowerPoint. So all my stuff is done in PowerPoint. If I can find it here. And so like one of my other courses here is I'm just trying to find my PowerPoint. Oh, it's up here. Where are you, PowerPoint? I don't know. Oh, there we go. So like I'm working on a course, where is it? Where's my Azure course? Oh, I guess it's not on this computer. But anyway, the point is that like I'll be working through PowerPoint presentations, and I don't have an easy way to share it. And the issues with that is that, where did my pop-up go now? I can't see anyone chatting. Oh, there we go. So one thing I'd love to do, and I used to do this when I used Google Slides, but I used to make all my presentations in Google Slides. And so the advantage to that was that when I used Google Slides, I was able to publicly share those. But now that I use PowerPoint to make my presentations, I can't embed those fonts into the online version of it, so they'd all be broken. And so I have no mechanism to share my slides as I'm making them. So I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do that, but I really would love to share stuff as I do it. recently passed practitioner and solution architect following. Oh, thanks. Yeah. So, I mean, the way I make my slides is I make them like as if I'm learning, because like I like to get to the core of the information as quickly as possible, and then I just like to jump into pragmatic stuff, because I just believe like you just cram the information in, like the broad strokes, and then you can go into detail afterwards. I just like, for me, it's just like I do not like to wait. I like things to be fast paced, and I'm not worried about learning things on the first go. If you're wondering like actually how I make my courses or how I outline them, I actually just opened up the AWS docs. So like when I wanted to figure out what to do for SSM, I've used all these services, so I have a sense of what to do. But I just open it up. I just go down the list. I say, oh, these are all these services I've never, like I know they're important, but I need to cover them more. Or it's like I needed to cherry pick out some stuff for the Elastic Load Balancer. I just open up the docs. So I just go to Elastic Load Balancer. That's why I don't mind sharing my content for free, because generally I'm just rehashing content that is already available for free. But the trick is knowing what to study, right? So I'm just like, I don't feel that I'm bringing new content. I'm just summarizing, cutting it down, and saving you time. I don't know why this is not giving me the right doc here. Looks like they got 2 new versions. I don't remember there being 2 here. We'll go to the user guide here. Yeah, so, and this is what I'm talking about, how AWS changes rapidly. Like I was looking at this literally today, and this, like there was no version 1 and version 2. So like I'm completely confused right now. Yeah, so anyway, I'll look at auto scaling groups instead. Can you recommend on a best way to prepare notes when we are learning? So what's the best way to do it? I don't know. Like for me, like I would just say it's just the thing is, it's not important to make notes, like to go back and review, because I give you all the cheat sheets and stuff like that. What's important is for you to write things down, because when you put pen to paper, I think that it helps you commit things to memory. Whereas if you're watching something, you don't have to as well. That's a really common teaching practice. Just like, it's not about you keeping those notes for study later. It's about you doing the physical act of writing things down. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. So that's what I would suggest. But for when it comes to practice exams, it's a different story. So when you're doing the core content, you just write stuff down to help you with your memory. But when you're doing practice exams, it's super, super important as you do each practice exam question that you write notes. And I'll actually show you what I mean. I actually have it in my system, because a lot of people don't know about this. I'm just going to pull up Exam Pro on another screen here, so I don't show you my entire admin panel. Okay, and I'm just going to pull up any course here. I know you can't see. I'm going to show you here in a second. So here I am in my actual Exam Pro platform here. And I got some notes. Probably some bugs I got to fix. So let's say I was to go take a practice exam. I'm going to go ahead and take one. This is for the developer. And so I start off, right? And so what I always tell people, and this is like, I would say that if you get through the actual journey of my content or any other provider and you take your first practice exam, it's pretty normal to get 48% on your first practice exam. That is very, very normal. So I always think it's like, get through the journey content as quick as you can, because you want to get to the practice exam questions, which are going to really challenge your knowledge. So what I would do is, I would read through this question, but the most important notes that you should take is actually on here. So what I would do is I would read this question, and I would think about how I would actually answer it. So if I don't really know what the answer is, I would go in the comments and I would write in here, these are your notes, and I would write what I thought the answer was, so that at the end of the exam, I can reflect on where I went wrong, right? Because if you just go through this and you never write notes on every single question, you don't know how far off you were, or how close you were. Or let's say you do a question again. Let's say you get this exact same question and you get it wrong the second time. You can't look at your notes the first time, because the problem when you go through these systems, you'll end up memorizing, and it's our brains, right? Our brains want to memorize something. I'm fresher and want to start a career in DevOps. What is your advice for people like me from where to start and move on? It depends if you're coming from a technical background or a non-technical background. So if you've had a technical background for 5 to 15 years, I know that's a big range, but like I meet people that are like mechanical engineers, or they're in the IT support, or et cetera, like that. and you want to move into cloud, you're going to have a great opportunity with DevOps or because like in the cloud, everything is like configuration. It's not so much programming. So you don't need to have a lot of programming knowledge. You just have to have a lot of configuration knowledge. You have to be able to work through problems. And that knowledge is very transferable from IT support or mechanical engineer. You're used to dealing with problems. You're used to dealing with a lot of use cases that are changing. And so DevOps is a good thing. If you're new to cloud, I don't generally recommend DevOps. I recommend being a cloud engineer or a solution architect because those ones are more conceptual or they're more pragmatic. Like so, cloud engineer is somebody who implements infrastructure, or sorry, like or develops features. And a solution architect comes up with theories of ideas of how to architect things using multiple services. But DevOps is like if you don't have, if you're not willing to, or if you don't have the motivation to bash your head against the wall for 12 to 14 hours, you do not want to be a DevOps. But you know, it just depends, right? So, but you know, you have to ask like, why is it that you want to be DevOps, you know? So I'll just post that question to you. And if you can tell me, I'll try to answer that a bit more. But coming back to the notes here, so, oh, sorry, yep. This is great stuff. Thank you for sharing the learning habits, especially the first test. Now I don't feel bad. Yeah, I know. People feel like so demotivated because in my system, I have like Quizlets and stuff, right? So they'll go through here and you get little stars, right? And so I ask like little questions in every single one. And these questions are really, really easy. So you go through here and you do like a little quiz. I have a bit of a lag on my computer today. And so you ask these, and these are good for helping you retain the information, but they don't simulate the actual exam. So people get through this, and then once they start, they get 48%, and they think that's wrong. That's right. You should be at 48% on your first practice exam. In my system, it's not very clear because I'm not a clear use case because I'm just filling around here. But generally, what happens is people come in here, and I tell them get 48% on your first exam. And then what you want to do is, it doesn't matter if you get 48%, that's totally normal. What you want to do is master your mistakes. So before you move on to a new set or new set of questions, you want to master those mistakes. You want to go through the remaining failures until you get it right. So I'd go in here and I click again. And, oh, it didn't do it. Do I get a bug? Oh, it's because I have an exam running still here. I can't master mistakes here. So I'm going to end this exam here. Oh, hi from the Philippines. Okay, so just to go back here, so I'm going to go back to the, oops, I was in the developer, right? We'll go developer here. And so if I just go back to this practice exam here, right? So this one, this is not a real temp, but the idea is you'd have 48%. And what you want to do is you want to go back and master that till you get 100%. So you go here, master your mistakes. And now there's no timer. And so it's just your goal to try to remember what you got wrong, right? I'm just answering these randomly. Okay, I'm going to end that there. And then we'll go back to our, but anyway, the point is in my system, we have all the questions, right? So you can go to the review and read all the stuff. And you make all your notes here. So your notes will show up so that you can review it every single time. But anyway, the way I tell people to practice is you get 40% of your first one, you do mastery to 100%, then you move on to your practice exam. The next one, people usually get about 65 to 70, and then on their third exam, they usually get 80 plus on their first attempt, right? And if you get 80 plus on your third attempt, like on your third set, but whatever, then you're ready for your exam. And the thing I always say to people is you don't want to get 90% on your exam. If you go and take an associate level certification and you come back and you're like, I scored 969, like that's a great score, but nobody cares that you scored that high. And the thing is that all you've done is you've extended your study period much longer instead of moving up to the next level. So I'd rather people score between 750 to 850 instead of getting the 900s, because then they can move on to like the pros or the specialties or stuff like that. The Cisco the Kid, with no prior IT experience, would you recommend cloud engineer or architect? I'm better off trying to get A+ and network certs first. Thank you. You'd have to ask CloudBart about this. So like CBT Nuggets is another provider, and they are known for networking and at least Cisco networking. And so my attitude is like I never had a networking background. And when I wanted to learn AWS, I just learned the broad strokes, like, and I still don't really know that much about networking. I have to go actually, I plan on making a free Network Plus course when I get through more of my AWS certification courses, because I do believe that it's a good skill to round out your knowledge, but I don't believe it is a necessity to get a job in the market. You don't need to have Network Plus or A Plus to get into cloud, but it's definitely going to round out your knowledge, and it just depends on when you want to go get that, right? Whether you want to get it now or you want to get it after you get your job and to help you learn up on the job. It also just depends on the type of company you apply for. I'm used to working with startups, so they usually or medium to large size tech companies that are more bleeding edge. So like in Toronto and stuff like that. So they usually have people that are managing their networks, or they're using all cloud networking. And cloud networking versus real networking are totally two different things. You know, you can get by just by knowing that you should just set your subnets as 24 or whatever the number is, and that's all you need to know. And this is even with larger companies that use cloud providers. So, but I don't know. Does anyone else have any other questions? I wasn't expecting any questions. I was just showing the outline today. So. And it's funny because there used to be a kid that went to my school and he was obsessed with Cisco, and we used to call him Cisco Kid. But I don't think you're the same person. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I just wanted to show the outline and talk about how I might move this over. I would love to do more videos where I just do Q&A, but I probably would have to prep some content, so we drive that and set a date. For everyone who joined the chat, thanks for joining in today, and I will do another video sooner when I can.